As part of our ingredients for this recipe called SSL VPNs with backend Active Directory authentication, we need to have LDAP and authentication profiles in place. And we also want to have a separate zone. It's best practice to have a separate zone for VPNs and placing a virtual tunnel interface as part of that zone. And in this nugget, you and I get to verify and set up those components. Let's begin. For Global Protect with the SSL VPNs, if we're going to use the Active Directory for the authentication of users like Bob, we want to make sure that we have the profiles for both LDAP and authentication set up. Now we've touched on those and we've set those up previously in our nuggets preceding this one as part of this course. But what I'd like to do is go take a look at those just to verify that they're in place correctly as we proceed. Next, we're going to create a zone. So we'll currently have the inside, DMZ, and outside zones, but let's create a brand new zone. We'll simply name it VPN, and we'll create a logical tunnel interface that will be associated with that new VPN zone. And that will set us up perfectly for the ability to control what Bob can do by using security policies between that VPN zone and other zones that we have associated with other interfaces on the Palo Alto. So here on the Palo Alto Firewall, let's go over to the Device tab and let's take a look at our LDAP server profile and our authentication profile. So with the Device tab selected, over here on the left, we'll go down to LDAP, select that, and let's look at the details for our LDAP profile by clicking on our LDAP profile. Now, we've already verified that this was working in a previous nugget as part of user ID. So this part looks great. Let's click on Cancel. And the other profile we want to check is the authentication profile. So here's our authentication profile that we've also created previously as part of this course, and let's click on it to look at the details. Now, the login attribute that we want this authentication profile to use, because we're using Active Directory, is called SAM account name. So I'm going to type in the SAM account name as that login attribute. And that's the only detail that we need to modify right now as part of this authentication profile. So we'll click on OK, and over here we can just verify the login attribute is now the SAM account name, which is great. And next, let's create a zone specifically where VPN clients can land, meaning their initial zone that they're going to be in as they try to access other resources inside of our enterprise. And to set up an additional zone, we're going to go over to the Network tab, second from the right. And with the Network tab selected, we're going to go ahead and click on Zones here on the left. So there's our inside, DMZ, and outside, and we will click on the Add hyperlink near the bottom to go ahead and create a new zone. So let's go ahead and call this simply VPN. And also, while we're right here, let's also enable user ID on this zone. And we'll leave the type as layer 3, and we'll click on OK. So we have our LDAP profile, we have our authentication profile, we have this new VPN zone, and now we need to create a logical tunnel interface that we can associate with this VPN zone. So with the Network tab still selected, over on the left, we'll select Interfaces. So here's our physical interfaces that we've configured so far through this course. And what we're going to do is we are going to create a tunnel interface. So we'll click on the Tunnel subtab here on the right. And then we'll click on the Add hyperlink near the bottom. And we'll simply create a new tunnel interface. And let's go ahead and name it 6783. We could call it 1 or 10 or 15 or whatever number we want to within reason. And we're going to assign this interface to a routing instance, and we're also going to assign it to a security zone. Now, we only have one routing instance called VR-1, so that's where we're going to place it. And we're also going to assign this to the zone called VPN. And for the moment, that's all we need to do for this tunnel interface. So we'll go ahead and click on OK. And we'll just verify our work. So we have this tunnel interface called tunnel.6783. We did not assign it an IPv4 address. It's associated with VR-1, the virtual router, and the security zone of VPN. So if that looks good, we'll go ahead and click on Commit. We'll click on Commit again to confirm that. And now we're one step closer to implementing SSL VPNs with Global Protect. And we'll click on Close to close this commit window. In this nugget, we verified our LDAP and authentication profiles. We created a new zone just for VPN, and we created and associated a tunnel interface with that new VPN zone. I'm glad you joined me for this nugget. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.